So Trump has called himself a nationalist in a rally the other day, and now you're starting to see examples of the media saying that nationalist basically has undertones with white nationalism and it's a racial thing, which Trump vehemently denies. He just says that he's a nationalist in the sense that I call myself a nationalist, which is I look out for this country first. I think this is the greatest country. I think that our politicians should be looking out for our country first and foremost. They shouldn't be actively trying to hurt other areas of the world, but their policies and their decisions should be to benefit their citizens first. The rest of the world is an afterthought to that, right? That's the way it should be. I, too, am a nationalist. I think that globalism is terrible and it's leading to all sorts of bad things, which benefits a sort of wealthy elite establishment people that are using it to eliminate the middle class and consolidate more power. That's what I think globalism is in a nutshell. But I just think it's hilarious. I'll link an article from The Hill, which is a website I like going to, even though they lean left-wing, where they're talking specifically about this. And I've seen other left-wing people saying this, like, oh, nationalism equals white nationalism. And it's funny, if you read the article carefully, it's just like, Trump, it's like presented as if it's just an objective news article. It's like Trump says he's a nationalist. He says that he never even considered that has anything to do with racially. And then it just jumps into white nationalist in Virginia at Charlottesville had a terrible rally where a woman died. Yeah, what does that have to do with anything? They call themselves white nationalists, right? At the same time, then, wouldn't this be the same as saying, like, oh, you're a democratic socialist? Well, the Nazis called themselves national socialists, so you must be Nazis, right? Democratic socialists, which are which are likened to national socialists, which are the Nazis. Like, yeah, just because some moron says that doesn't mean that it's the case. Now, I have no love for socialism or democratic socialism or whatever veneer they want to call it, but certainly I don't think that someone like Bernie Sanders is a Nazi. It's an absurd connection. Now, people will say, yes, but there were, like, some of the things that the National Socialists tried to do were socialist endeavors, but whatever. Democratic socialists are not Nazis, right? It would be stupid to assume they were. And equally, it's stupid to come out for all these people on the left to go, oh, nationalism, that equates to something racial. And it just proves that, like, there are a lot of people on the left and the media and things that really do hate, like, having a love for the country. They don't like that. They want globalism. They don't want borders, right? They think it's bad and dirty to stick up for your country. They think that we should go around the world kowtowing to others, being ashamed of being of the United States and begging forgiveness and kowtowing and helping the world and having a world order. The borders are bad, right? Of course, the same people that say this are living in gated communities, right? It's all wealthy people. Oh, they're all about having people from other countries. Let's see how many of these caravan people that are coming they welcome into their Greenwich Village or, Martha's Vineyard. Oh, none, right? Leave them live in squalor. As long as they're, and you could see this once in a while, right, when they say things like, oh, without illegal, I forget who it was, there was a celebrity that tweeted, and you hear this type of rhetoric all the time. Oh, well, they're great people. Who would mow our lawns? Who would take care of our children? Who would be maids? Yeah, exactly. Right? Like, that's what you think. You think, the wealthy think, more cheap labor for us to exploit. Great. And it's not just the left, by the way. Republican business people that call themselves Republican that want cheap labor, that own businesses and stuff, they like this too. They want illegals. But nonetheless, that's not really what this video is about. This idea that somehow being a nationalist means that somehow you're discussing race. No, I think that I'm a nationalist in the sense that I don't care what your race, sexual preference, it just becomes absurd. Like, it seems like this is a third video in the past couple days I've been doing where it discusses, like, identity politics and the idea that, like, you can't even stand up and say I'm proud of this country and what it is and what it has been in history without people, like, now being insinuated by people in the media or people on the left of so you're a racist. What are you talking about, right? Now, maybe you think Trump's a racist. I happen to disagree. I haven't seen any proof of that. But even if that's the case, him saying he's a nationalist isn't proof of that, right? That you can't conflate the term nationalist with somehow only being about white people or something that, like, disliking. And the Hill article that I read that kind of prompted this video that I'll link below says, like, oh, people cite, like, him not wanting illegal immigrants coming in, that kind of shows that it's all about, like, he doesn't want people of color. That's absolutely absurd, right? Like, it's mind-boggling that, like, this idea that, like, if you want to enforce the border, somehow you're a racist, or if you have pride in this country, somehow you're a racist, right? Like, I don't like the people that were at Charlottesville. I don't like white supremacists. I think they're ridiculous, right? I don't like black supremacists. I don't like any supremacists, right? Anyone who thinks that based on immutable characteristics that they're somehow better than people with other immutable characteristics suck. They're terrible people, right? That has nothing to do with nationalism. If you came to this country legally a year ago, right, and you're a legitimate citizen or resident of this country, then you're part of this nation, right? And our government should be working for you as well. That's what nationalism's about. I don't care what your background is, right? And one of the things that, like, the idea of this country, the idea of, like, a melting pot, which it's taken to the extreme, like, people will say, the Statue of Liberty, that proves we should have no borders. Absolutely ridiculous. Yes, our country was a melting pot of different, diverse cultures, and that is a good thing, but that doesn't mean that we could just, at that point, when this was going on, when immigration was going on, at that sense, the United States needed people. We had these vast resources and land that we needed populated, right? But it was still all legal, right? The United States was never saying, we should be a country without borders. Like, that's never happened. And everyone knows that, right? Everyone knows that was never the idea. A country can't exist if it is saying, hey, we have open borders. It's the same reason you can't own private property, right? And if you say, no border, like my land is your land, right? Everyone's land. No, you want to own these wealthy people want to live in their gated communities. They want their house. They want their millions, right? But when it comes to the border of the country, they say, open borders. We need to be globalist, right? Globalism's it's a terrible thing, right? Like, it takes away national autonomy. It, like I said, it consolidates power. Like, isn't it funny that like all these people, if you're on the left, right, and you're watching this, and again, I do apologize when I'm talking about like the left, I'm basically talking about the establishment left with a lot of my criticism, and I mean by that, like the media, the heads of the Democratic Party, and things of that nature, right? Like, you could be perfectly a reasonable person and be on the left, right? I have many, many friends. In fact, I probably have as many friends that would consider themselves left-wing as I do right-wing. That's totally cool. We could have legitimate reasons to disagree. I don't think you're a bad person or anything like that. That's great. But if you happen to be someone on the left, right, and you're well-intentioned, I'm assuming you are, like, don't you find it odd that the same people that push for globalism are like the same kind of corporations and stuff that you railed against, right? Like, isn't it odd that all of those people, like these multinational corporations, are the ones that are saying, yeah, let's kind of get rid of nation states. Let's have a global order, right? They stand to make tons of money. They can exploit more cheap labor. Great for them, right? So I just think that it's ridiculous, and it's another example of, like, the racism card is really getting played out. Like, there is legitimate racism. That's the sad thing. I think that it's getting better every year, right? And I certainly don't think it's one-sided. Like, there's this, like, a lot of people the media tries to push this idea that, like, racism can only occur based from certain skin colors to others. Like, that's ridiculous. You could think that your race is the best no matter what your race is, and treat other people like crap based on their race, no matter what their race is, right? It doesn't matter. Historically, in this country, we do see that there was more abuse for people that were white, that tended to be people of color against them. But I think although it's always a problem that we need to continue to work towards, I think that it's like a problem that's getting better every generation. And it seems like racial animus is being stoked by people on the left that want to push identity politics, that are trying to set up an us versus them or oppressed versus oppressors type situation. When in reality, I think most people, I mean places where maybe 60, 70 years ago, like in the South or rural areas where you may have seen like legitimate racism, I think it's basically universally frowned upon. It's something that's hidden, like, for the small amount of people that actually have general, like, hatred in their heart for other races. It's something that they are afraid to show in public, right? Most of them, except like a couple morons, like, Black Panther type groups or KKK type groups that, like, no one takes seriously. They're ridiculous, right? They have no power whatsoever. I remember one time in a small town near where I am, I remember there was a KKK rally at a courthouse. They're allowed to have the speech, free speech. And there's like 6 of them, and then there's like 100 people across the street, like, yelling at them in a small rural town. It's like, get out of here. We don't want you. You people suck, right? Like, but we keep pushing this. we keep pushing this idea, keeps getting pushed like, oh, this is such a racist country. Oh, you nationalist, you favor policies that support the country before the world. Oh, then you must be a racist. That has connotations with white nationalism. Absolutely ridiculous. And what you do is you belittle actual acts of racism then, because once the average person just hears everything's racist, right? Everything's racist. You do this, it's racist. Now, Trump's nationalist policies. He wants to make America great again. He wants to view America first. Wow, that's racist. So when you hear that enough over and over and over again, you're like, okay, I just don't care anymore. And that's what's happening. Like, the word's getting played out. It's the same way with, like, the sexual assault. Like, the Me Too movement started, like, with good things, where it was like, yeah, rape and sexual assault, and the cases they were discussing were, like, serious things that needed dealt with. But now it's moved on to things like, and you can't have consensual sex while drunk. If you've ever, that's always rape. But it's only the man that's raping the woman. If they're both drunk, then the man raped the woman if they had sex while she was drunk. And just stupid stuff like that. Like, in some of the cases in Me Too's like, well, he was mean he made advances to me that I thought were mean, and things like that. And then what happens is the average person's like, okay, it's going too far. I'm just tuning out. Same things happen with this racism, the way it's thrown around by people in the media and the heads of the Democratic Party and other left-leaning people with power and authority. So, yeah, I just think it's ridiculous. Like, I am an unabashed nationalist. I think that this is the greatest country in the world. I'm proud of this country. I want people that are looking out for the interests of this country first. Is a secondary concern, but it is something that's high. I don't think we should be going around like exploiting other countries, bombing the crap out of them, engaging in regime change efforts and things of that nature, which is something I talk about often, even on this YouTube channel, right? But that's still like in the context of like looking out for our country. We shouldn't do evil, right? In other words, like to other countries, we shouldn't just say, America first, so we'll exploit the rest of the world. No, we shouldn't do that. But you shouldn't act out of animus or evil or ill intentions towards other countries. But the policies that you're acting that are of good faith, right, should always be America first. So we shouldn't be worried about solving the economy of like some country like Honduras or something like that, or taking immigrants from them. No, not until. Why are we're concerned about these immigrants coming from Honduras, yet there are homeless people on the streets in our country right now. There are veterans that can't receive health care. There are children and with families where they can't get like proper nutrition or education or shelter and things of that nature. Yet for some reason we're always focused on the poor of other areas of the world. Like, and then when you look at in the background of it, you're like, oh, wait a minute, because there's an agenda, right? Because that's cheap labor. We want these open borders because these wealthy people, that's what they like. They don't care about helping like these businesses. A lot of them, their bottom line isn't affected by helping homeless people in the United States. It's not affected by helping veterans that need health care, right? That doesn't help their bottom line. But more cheap labor, that helps. So yeah, bring them in, right? Open borders, great. Doesn't affect them and their mansions, right? No, they're not taking whatever CEO jobs or anything of that nature, right? And it's funny, like all these people that want to claim these things, like that nationalism's bad, like a big hub of this would be like California, right, where they want to accept all these illegals. Yet California is this dichotomy. It's a paradoxical place where you have some of the extremely wealthiest people in this country, right, and the poorest people living in squalor, like fecal matter on the streets, drug needles everywhere, things of that nature. How can that be, right? If these are genuine, like these wealthy people that are supposedly bleeding heart, like all the people in the tech community and things of that nature, right? They have the resources. Why are they allowing their communities to be this? Pony up some of your personal money. No, they don't want to do that. Instead, they just want to say, more taxes for everyone else. They personally don't want to pay money. They'll pay a little more in taxes. That's fine. They don't mind that if it makes them sleep good at night. But when it comes to actually shelling out real money of their own to help the situation, nope. Always good for thee, not for me, right? These progressives, I think it's Victor David Hansen said something. By the way, he's brilliant. I really like him, and he knows a lot about California. I recommend checking him out. Said something that these progressives, right, recommend a socialist utopia that they'll never have the misfortune of having to live in, right? Like they don't care if gas prices double, right, because of green policy. They don't care if wages are driven down by an influx of illegal immigration because it doesn't affect them. They can pay a couple. It's just a small pittance to them. Doesn't affect their job. Doesn't really affect their bottom line. So yeah, sure, whatever. A couple more dollars at the gas pump, no big deal. And so they never suffer by that, but they think that they're these great people, right? Because they have these open hearts. It's just ridiculous. So, anyways, I'm kind of getting off on a tangent. So yeah, the idea. Trump's not, it is not, to claim you're a nationalist, we should reject the idea that somehow this means that you're racist or it has connotations with white nationalism. That's absolutely absurd. It does not. Like, you could fully be a nationalist and just like this country and want what's best for this country and all the people that are here legally, including people of all racial ethnicities, all religious backgrounds, all genders, all sexual preferences, of all that. They all, to me, when I call myself a nationalist, all fall into that category. In fact, I even did one video a while ago where I talked about a lot of the legal immigrants that I've met in my life are in what I would consider a great American or even better Americans than me. One, they know a lot about the history of the country, which is amazing. And second, they're working like 18 hours a day, like 7 days a week, seemingly. Like, they're kind, they're great people. They're fun to be around, hardworking, right? Entrepreneurial. Like, that's kind of the American spirit. I don't care what their ethnicity, where they came from, what their religion, and none of that matters. It doesn't matter to me if they're a man or a woman. They're part of this country. When I say nationalism, I'm talking about those people as well, right? Like, our government should be enacting policies to help them as well as me, as well as everyone that's in this country. That's the idea of nationalism. It shouldn't be saying, oh, we need to police the world, or we need to give money to the rest of the world, or things like that. That's not the purpose of our government. That's not why we should be electing officials. We should be looking out for this country first. And that is not racial. So, all right, have a good one.